The second most profitable smartphone vendor in China, Oppo, is growing leaps and bounds this year. And when you look at its 2013 crop of handsets, for a good reason. After the first phone with 30 megapixel camera and second with Full HD display, the Oppo Find 5, then the very thin and light dual SIM Oppo R819, the company now outs a unique camera phone. This is Daniel from Phone Arena presenting you the Oppo N1. Its signature features are this rotating 13 megapixel camera module at the top, the touch navigational panel on the back, and the huge 5.9-inch 1080p display. But the phone also has some interface and gesture navigation tricks worthy of the unique moniker. In the year of the phablet, however, has Oppo managed to churn out a device worthy to be considered amongst so many good big screen phones out there at its flagship price? Let's find out. The Oppo N1 is one big phone, so big in fact that with its 6.72 inches and 3.25 width, it only gives way to the Xperia Z Ultra phablet. It's taller than phablets like the HC1 Max, Lumia 1520 and the Galaxy Mega 6.3, but narrower than Samsung's handset, so at least holding it is fairly possible. One-handed operation though, forget it. Most of the time you'll be forced to use this thing with both palms, since the touch here on the back is only good for scrolling around, swiping or launching a preset app. The build is pretty sturdy in Oppo's established unibody polycarbonate tradition, with two chamfered metal rims around the sides and the camera swivel here. The last one is the phone's unique selling point, as it allows the 13 megapixel shooter with dual LED flash to rotate 206 degrees around its axis. So you can have it pointed towards you, towards the ceiling, or objects in the rear at any given time. Not that there is much benefit in that compared to the typical rear front cam setup, rather than the ability to capture better selfies and some quality video chat streaming compared to your average front-facing shooter. The swivel also contains the earpiece and ambient light and proximity sensors, so if someone calls you while doing a selfie, you have to turn the earpiece half around and then talk. Nothing else interrupts the matte white back of the Oppo N1, save for a tiny O, which houses the second noise-cancelling microphone, and this barely visible touch panel here, the border markings, called O-Touch. The rest is housed at the bottom. There is a speaker grill here, a micro USB port, an audio jack, and the other microphone. The volume rocker here on the right is easy to feel and press, with good tactile feedback. Situated just right on the gargantuan body, the power lock key above it, however, is too small and flush with the surface to be comfortably felt and pressed without looking, plus it feels pretty wobbly under your fingertip. The left houses a micro SIM card tray that can be ejected with the special tool found in the box. Navigating the interface with three responsive capacitive keys situated in the thick black bezel underneath the display part is pretty easy. The 5.9-inch 1080 by 1920 pixels IPS LCD display of the Oppo N1 sports excellent 377 ppi pixel density, which is more than enough so as you don't tell the individual pixels when looking closer at icon edges, text or solid colors. The screen is protected with Gorilla Glass 3, but we wouldn't rely on that fact if the handset is dropped face down and its gigantic surface meets concrete, for example. The color's a bit on the warm side, while their saturation level isn't flying way above the standard RGB color gamut, like on most OLED displays, for instance, where the colors appear vivid but not natural. It's not the case here. The panel is of average brightness and reflectivity, so outside under direct sunlight you might have issues with telling what's on screen fine. Viewing angles are what we would expect from an IPS display, meaning very good, both the vertical and horizontal ones. The Oppo N1 comes with the aptly named O-Click Bluetooth remote control accessory. It's essentially a keychain, a ring with battery-powered button and low-energy connectivity that can last quite a while. You can use it as a remote shutter for the camera, for example. You press it and the phone takes a picture. Or you can double press the O-Click to make the phone start ringing so as you can find where you left it. That's how it notifies you. These features can be controlled with the dedicated O-Click app, which also serves as the initial point of contact with the accessory. Alternatively, the contraption starts beeping when you exit a predetermined range between the device and the smartphone, presumably helping not to forget one or the other somewhere. It beeps like that. It often starts beeping from too short of a distance though, so carrying the O-Click on your keychain with this function on gets rather annoying at times. Luckily you can deactivate it and use it as a camera remote only. The N1 sports Oppo's color operating system on top of Android 4.2, which seems to be based on the Go launcher with its hundreds of themes and wallpapers that can be easily selected and applied to the N1 as well. There will be a version with cyanogen mode out of the box in December, making it the first phone to ship officially with the renowned custom ROM project that is now emerging as a separate company. Oppo's color interface has received some features unique for the camera-centric N1, such as this dedicated photography home screen dubbed Exclusive Space. Here you will find a camera widget that uses part of the screen as a viewfinder, and you can take pictures as well as toggle the flash directly from here. Beneath it is a scrollable timeline with snapshots of all your photos along with time and date they were taken. There are a bunch of other handy helpers peppered thoughtfully in the interface and the menus. The pull-down notification bar, for instance, houses each and every toggle you might need here on a couple of rows if needed, so you don't need to swipe left and right to reach anything. On top of that, it shows a data counter with your plan limit and the amount of use so far. Another good thing we find in the app drawer, right here where downloaded third-party apps, for example, are marked with a little green dot next to them to separate them from the default apps. There's a plethora of utility apps tucked neatly into folders as well. The default color scheme on the interface is very pleasant as well, with this green accent, and attention is paid to even minute things like the presence of, for example, festive wallpapers, holiday wallpapers that automatically display backgrounds that reflect the current holiday. The amount of thought and options that went to the Color OS is akin to HTC Sense UI, and Oppo's interface design team surprisingly beats much larger companies like Samsung and LG here. The Oppo N1 has a unique touch panel here on the back that lets you navigate the interface and launch apps. It is no fingerprint sensor, but it allows you to slide your finger in various directions to scroll or move sideways in the current app, as well as launch applications when you double tap it, depending on what you've fixed for it. It works well and aids in one-handed navigation, that's for sure, on the huge phone, which is a plus with the screen size, although it takes some getting used to and it's sometimes hit or miss. Besides this rear touch panel, Oppo offers another navigation option. Sliding down your finger from the top right will evoke the typical Android notification bar used to, but the top left, for example, will pull down this gesture drawing area. You can draw a circle, for example, to launch the camera up, or you can draw a V and this flashlight will be turned on, and a number of others you can set. This might sound like an addition for the sake of it, but Oppo had the brilliant idea to also make the drawing gestures work when the screen is off, for example. Let's turn it off. Drawing a circle here will launch the camera up, and as you saw, the V will turn on the LED video light to serve as a flashlight, which might come in very handy when there's no light around. You can also control the music player with gestures from here and muster up your own combinations. The gesture features are taken even further by Oppo, pinching in with a few fingers anywhere in the interface will launch the camera, like that. Also, swiping up or down with 3 fingers will take screenshot, and doing the same with 2 controls the volume. Pretty helpful options, which we found ourselves using on a regular basis, especially this volume control gesture here. The Oppo N1 is powered by a 1.7 GHz quad-core Snapdragon 600 processor, which is just a step below the best Qualcomm offers at the moment in the form of Snapdragon 800. It is more than enough to power the interface, plus any apps and games thrown at the N1. Though the Crite 300 core and Adreno 320 GPU are less powerful than the Crite 400 one and the Adreno 330 in the Snapdragon 800. The difference might be noticeable in some games and benchmarks, but at this stage of mobile processor development, the app requirements can barely keep up with even Snapdragon 600 here, let alone 800. The memory situation is decent with 2 GB of RAM for some enhanced multitasking, but no micro SD slot for storage expansion, though you can choose from both a basic 16 GB model and a 32 GB one with the Oppo N1. As you can see, we scored a little below 10,000 quadrant with the Snapdragon 600. Oppo uses mobile Chrome as a default browser, so if you want Adobe Flash support, you'd have to sideload it and get a third-party browser. Chrome's performance is very smooth on the handset while scrolling, zooming or panning around, and text reflow works without a hitch as well. The handset features 42 megabits per second HSP plus download speeds. If you care, I can hit that, of course, as well as the latest Wi-Fi AC standard, Bluetooth 4.0 assisted GPS DLNA, and NFC to boot. The micro USB port at the bottom provides USB on-the-go connectivity as well, meaning you can plug in a flash drive with a USB cable and read contents directly on the phone. The gallery is simply called Photos and sports a number of on-handset editing possibilities for your pictures. Though the sharing options only cover basic stuff like Google's Hangouts and Facebook out of the box, and when you install additional apps they will appear here as well. The music app still has this cool vinyl icon and a very pleasant, easy to use interface with big buttons. There's Dolby Mobile surround sound mode you can turn on for allegedly fuller sound. You can turn it off. As you can hear, the loudspeaker here on the bottom is very good, pretty strong and comparatively clear. But the Dolby Mobile surround sound simply seems to turn up the sound intensity, as you can hear. It comes, however, with a few visualized equalizer presets. Right here. You have a broad one, a rich one, focus depending on the shape of the sound curve, or you can create a custom one by just dragging the S-curve up and down. Pretty cool. Oppo supplies ergonomic in-ear headphones with the N1, whose stops are slightly tilted for better fit in your ear, like the ones that come with the LG G2. And they have an additional opening providing better acoustics. The overall effect is pretty pleasing compared to the typical earbuds that come with smartphones these days, although they give way to the headphones bundled with the above mentioned phones in terms of sound quality. The video player here has no issues running every major format thrown at it, including MKV files and at 1080p resolutions at that. But as you can see, the interface is devoid of additional options, save for the playback ones. Of course, watching videos on this huge display is a joy and one of the best features on a phablet. Oppo touts the N1 as the return to innovation, chiefly on account of this 13-megapixel swivel-mounted camera at the top. As for the sensor though, we still have one with the average mobile device size, and with 13 million pixels crammed in it, it doesn't have optical image stabilization as well, and Oppo's camera interface only offers a few scene modes like portrait, night, Sports the automatic smart scene landscape and also a couple of shooting modes like panorama and HDR. When it comes to quality, the phablet is severely lacking compared to other flagships and even mid-range Androids. The pictures come out with less detail than what one would expect from a 13 megapixel unit, and the amount of noise present drowns the details even more. We definitely expected better quality from a high-end device, especially one touting its camera. The photos sport fairly accurate color representation in white balance, relaying the colors you see with your own eyes naturally. However, the phone's automatic measurements sometimes result in underexposed frames that look much less lit than the scene is in reality. Indoors, the pics get very noisy unless the amount of light is abundant, and blur is usually part of the picture if you don't keep the giant phone extremely steady. In fact, there's even more noise and blur than we've achieved with phones that have no pretenses to be camera-centric like the N1 here. If we compare it with other high-end handsets like the Galaxy S4 for example, the Oppo N1 is just not good enough. Since the rear camera is also the front-facing shooter, when you turn it towards you, your selfies should be leaps and bounds above anything else on the market, right? Well, not really, as the usual indoor photos and the disadvantages apply here, and apart from more detail than with your typical front shooter, the snaps with the N1 aren't much to talk about in this case of a selfie as well. Video is shot with 1080p resolution, but the average frame count doesn't hit 30 frames per second, rather stays slightly below. The footage is still fluid and detailed enough, but comes underexposed like the stills and thus a lot darker than it should be. If you're eyeing a 6-incher like the Oppo N1, you're probably aware how uncomfortable to operate with one hand or even carry around such a phone would be. That being said, it is a very well-made device with solid build, good looks and flagship specs. Surprisingly, for a phone touted as camera-centric, this swivel-mounted camera is subpar compared to even much less expensive phones out there. So besides more detailed selfies, the rotating mechanism is of dubious benefit here. What we like though is Oppo's color OS interface with its polished looks, little touches and rich gesture navigation options, including a touch panel on the back of the phone. The N1 also comes with a handy O-click keychain remote out of the box and a pair of very good in-ear headphones. Unfortunately, the Oppo N1 commands a high-end price of slightly below $600 or euros without a contract, which is pitting it against all the formidable competition out there. If you're hellbent on a phablet, Nokia's Lumia 1520 will deliver a much better camera and video sound recording coupled with a superior display that has the same diagonal as the N1 here. The Galaxy Note 3 has a slightly smaller screen but is way more compact, and its camera is also delivering better results than the Oppo phablet. Thus, Oppo's intriguing N1 might be poised to become a niche device for folks in search of that perfect selfie from a phablet at this price tag. This was a video review of the Oppo N1 from Phone Arena. For more information about this and other handsets, you can visit us at phonearena.com. Thanks for watching.